When it comes to yesterday, we have been quickly discussed about what you meant by polymorphism. And under the polymorphism, we have been just discussed about two concepts. It's not two classes, it's a concept. One is method overloading. Okay, first we discussed overloading. And the next one is overriding. So now, what is the basic difference between overriding and the overloading? So now, if you see here, yesterday we have been very clearly discussed in a single class. I have the same method name with a different number of parameters and with a different data types. Then it is called overloading. Means I'll be overloading that particular method with a different type of implementations. So here, why it is called as a polymorphism? Because so poly it is having many forms, many behaviors. So now with the same name, it can perform a different behavior based upon the parameters. So this is called polymorphism. And that's the reason this is a concept of overloading. And this will be implicated in the same class. If it is in the same class, I have different methods and I'll be having a different number of parameters and with the different data types. This is called overloading. Now coming back to the overriding. So what do you mean by overriding? For an example, as we discussed in inheritance, there would be a parent class, child class. And the parent class is also called as superclass and subclass. Okay, so these both are same. So there is no differences between this. So different people will call with the different synonyms. So this is superclass and subclass or child class, parent class, child class. So now this is the synonym, this is the synonyms, but the meaning of this one is same. Okay. Now coming back to this overriding. Now overriding concept will be implicated in different classes. Consider, okay, consider I have two classes, class A and class B. Now what I wanted to do, here I have add method and here I have add method. Okay, now I have a runner class. Runner class is nothing but just I will have main method and then I'll try to run this particular from here. Now, if I wanted to run this one, this particular class A, I wanted to run, okay, I wanted to access the class A add method. This is a non-static method. I wanted to access the runner class. Now, what I should do, Soumya? What I should do?
Can you repeat the question?
There is a class A, class B, and there is an add method in a class A, which is a non-static method. I need to call it into the runner class. What I need to do?
Create
an object.
Call that method.
Sridhar, is your name? Your name is Soumya? When I asked you, you give me the answer.
Sorry, sir.
We will be creating the object for A, and then we will be calling that particular method. And be attentive in the class, guys. So A obj equal to new A. So now what it will be happening? So now with this particular object, I'll be trying to access this particular method. Now the same thing which I wanted to access this particular method. Now from B, I wanted to access this method. What I should do? Gayatri, if I wanted to access the add method, which is a non-static method, how should I call this one into the runner class?
The method name.
With a method name, I can directly call into the runner class this add. Aisha? Aisha, what's the answer?
It's class name.
Oh, non-static methods I should call with the class name. Balakrishna?
First we create object, then
How should we call the non-static methods from one class to another class?
So with non-static method, call with the class names.
Shimana?
We have to call with the
Satyashiva?
The class names.
Imran?
Variable, sir.
What is my question?
Class.
What is my question? Satyashiva, I'm asking you, what is my question?
From B class.
So you people not even listening me what I'm asking you, right?
No, sir.
Okay, tell me what is my question? Stop recording. J B dot add method will comes into the picture. Now, if I wanted to access this particular add, I'll be calling this add and then I'll be executing it. Now, this add method means if I wanted to access A class add, I'll be creating A class object. And if I wanted the B class add, I'll be creating the B class object. And then I'm accessing this particular add method. Now, for an example, now this B class has been extended with A, means this is parent class, this is child class. Now, what it would be happening? So here I'll be printing that hi, and here I'm trying to print hello. Now, when I extended this particular, means extended A from the B class, now which one? So now if at all I'm creating an object B obj equal to new B, if I have been created it, this particular object B, if dot add, if I have been given it, now what it would be trying to print for me? Is
Hello,
it
sir.
printing for the hi?
Hello.
Hello.
It would be printing the hello.
Hello.
Why?
Sir, because we have used the B object, sir.
Overriding the
Okay.
parent
Okay.
method.
Okay. Group, give me the group answers. I'll ask one by one. Okay. Tell me. What was the answers for this?
So child method will override the parent class method. That's why it's printing hello.
Object we are using to call the method is belonging to the B class. Hence, the execution of the method in the B class will happen, sir.
But this extended, right? So now object in the B class you are creating it, but still this is extended. Now what do you
it
mean
is
by extended?
overridden also, sir.
The answer it is overriding the parent class, not it is created for the B. See, if it is an individual class, then we will be creating the object for the B and then we are accessing add. But when we are creating and the same method and then it is extended, now compiler will not understand which method it need to take, either this add or this add. So what it will try to do is whatever the latest method in that particular class, in the child class will having it. So always the child class method will override the parent class method. So this is called overriding in the polymorphism. With the same name and with the same method signature, means there is no difference in the parameters, there would be no differences in the data types, and it should be exactly the same. But if it is in the child class and it is in the parent class, the child class method, so then this is called as overriding. So the conditions are here that it should have the same method name, it should have same number of parameters, same data type, and this method will override the parent class method. Then this is called as overriding. Now let's see the same example. So now whatever we have been discussed for this one, let's quickly see that and then talk about that. Now when I will go this and start this Eclipse. So now always you should remember that, one second. So always remember that overriding, the definition of the overriding is there should be a relation, parent-child relation, and in the child class and the parent class, we should have same method name with the same method signature. Same method signature means it's having the same number of methods, same number of methods, same method name, number of parameters, number of data, means the data type should be matching. Then the child class method will override the parent class method. So this is called as method overriding. So if you see this particular thing, now let's go for this example for this one, creating for method overriding, right? So now what I'll try to do, I'll try to create a class. What I'll do, MO method overriding underscore one. Okay, I created one class. Now what I'll try to do, I'll try to create another class, MOR underscore two. I created another class. Now here what I'll try to do, I'll try to create a runner class. Runner class is nothing but I just wanted to run something, so that I'll call this method runner class. Now I'll be having the public static void main. I have been created on this. Now what I'll try to do in this particular class, so I'll be writing that. So in the method overriding, so I need to create some methods, right? Now I wanted to create the same method name add. So public void add. Okay, so now here if I see this is sys dot, I'll be writing that I am in MOR underscore one parent. Okay, I'll be writing this one as a parent. Now always, okay, so now I'll be writing this one as in class 2. So I'll be doing this. I say that this is 2 and this is child. Now, if I have been created the object for this one in the runner class, now what it will happen? Obj equal to new. Okay, so I'll create the same object for this one. So here it is 1, here it is 1, and here it is 1. Now if you see here, I created object for these both classes. Now for an example, now if I wanted to print here this one and this one, so I have the differences, right? Yes. What I wanted to do is, I wanted to take this particular object and dot add, and the same thing, I'll take it for the next thing. Now I'll be giving it as 2. So now I'll be executing this. So now if you see here, as I'm calling from the, once I created this one, and I'm calling with this object, so it is printing me parent, and I created with this, and then calling from this one, it was creating me the child. Now, if I keep the debugging pointer, now if I'm giving this particular debugging, this one, if you see here, once it debugging comes into the picture, now if it is F5, now you see here, it went to this particular class and it started to execute this add method, so that it is printing the add method. So now it printed the parent. Now it came again back to the next one. So now first it went to, from this particular object, it went to this class and it executed. Now it should go for M means the MR means MOR2 class, and then it need to execute this particular thing. So now if you see here, it went to this particular class and then it started to execute that. It printed the child and then it came out. Now, as of now, there is no relation between these particular classes. But now, if at all, I wanted, when I have been started to create this particular object, and if it is a particular relation, now the child class overrides the parent class. If you wanted to see that particular relation and then execute on this one, means just we need to go to this particular classes. And if you see here, I just trying to, this is MOR1, right? I'm taking this one and here I'm trying to extend MOR1.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yes.
All this is that. So now if we have been given this one, now if you see here, when I come to the runner class file and started to execute this one, you see it? It was trying to override the parent class and then it was trying to bring it to me. If you see here, now what is this thing is, it will have both, means even the child class and parent class have the same method signature here and here, same, it is same, but the implementation is different. But whatever the latest thing, it will take that particular latest and then it will override the parent class. To show you more, to show you more explanation, so I just created this particular example. So now what is the thing which you need to always remember? Overriding means from the child class, that method, if I have a parent-child relation in the both the classes, if we have same method name with the same number of parameters, with the same data type, if it is there, then the child class method will override the parent class method. So this is called overriding. Okay. So now there are a lot of things here it will come for this. So creating an object or creating this one, so how it will be. Okay, so I'll make a little more complicated because you guys feel that it is not complicated. I just wanted to make you to understand some other things. Now here what I'll try to do, I have into it. Okay, so now I'll be printing that here. Okay. In MOR, I'm trying to have two values. Okay, so if you see here, I have another method. So now what is this concept called as?
Method overloading.
Method overloading.
So in the same class, I have the same method name with a different number of parameters. So this is method overloading. I have method overloading in the class 1, and in the class 2 also I have a method overloading. So here also I have add, but with a different A. Now I'm trying to call it from the runner class, right? In the runner class, now I created the object for 2, and then dot. If I call this in the A, you can see it, right? So from which classes we do have it? MOR2, I have add and add. So you can see that these two methods are coming from these two classes, the same class. And if you see here, MOR1, so this particular thing is coming from this particular class. We are able to see this particular thing, right? Now,
Yes, sir.
apart from
Yes,
this
sir.
one, we are also seeing this particular object. What is this object? I didn't create any particular class. I have created only MOR2, MOR1. What is this object? And we are getting all these methods, not for this object. If you create any object, you're getting this particular object. What is this object?
It's a superclass, sir.
Object is a superclass for any class. You create any class in Java. You create any class in Java. For all the classes, superclass is object. So these methods are default. By default, you will have it. So wherever you see this particular obj object. So now these are the class names, right? This is a superclass. That is the reason by default these methods will be there. Okay. So now whatever the object, because it is extended, right? So from the extending, see now here once again it's a concept of inheritance. Now this particular obj2 can access in a comma b because but still this method is in here in this particular parent class. But even though I created the object for the child class, I can able to access them. So always you remember that. So these both things would be there. Means the inheritance and the polymorphism would be in a combined form when it comes to the overriding concept. Because unless you know inheritance, you can't understand override, right? So because a parent-child relationship, you need to understand. So then only there is a method and then it will be overriding. So the child class method is overriding the parent classes. So that is how we will try to do it. Okay. Any doubts still here?
Sir, overriding, we understood the parameters should be same. Here, two parameters for MR2 we are passing. So I'm actually getting confused in this, sir. That implementation over the parameters also is allowed in.
You're not following, Sujit. Actually, this method is completely different. So now here, this method is, it is altogether, it's a different. Now,
Yes.
what do you mean by overriding first of all?
The method name and the parameters should same. Implementation should be different.
So now here in MOR1, I have the method name as add with no parameters. And MOR2, I have the same method name add and without having any implementation. So now this is called overriding, right? So now when I have created an object here with add this method, so the child class method has been override the parent class.
This is statement I understood, sir. 11th number line, I'm getting confused.
What is this? So now I created an object for child class.
Okay.
And accessing the parent class method. What is this called as?
Inheritance.
Inheritance. Okay. Okay.
What is there to not understand this?
I just confused with overriding.
See, why I told you this one because this. So now you're creating the child object. With the child object, you can access any the parent class methods and child class methods. And this is a different method. Now, this particular method, see now the add method here in the MOR2, I don't have with two parameters. I have with it's only one parameter. Now I can add, means I can access this add with a single parameter. Now you can see I can do add without having any parameters, and I can have with the parameters. With a parameter and two parameters. Now this method is overridden method, and this method is from MOR2,
MOR2.
and this method is from
MOR1.
MOR1. Yeah, I just wanted to show you. So now, as you created the object for the child class, you can access any of these things. So that is what I'm trying to tell you over here. Now, this is overridden because the child class method overrides a parent class, and this is a directly object of the method of this particular class, and directly this particular MOR is having the parent class method also. It can be accessed. Any questions?
Yes.
No questions? Okay, let me take another example. I'll do that. Here I can say that mul, and in MOR I change this one to sub. Okay, and I change this one to see, for your references and examples, I was using these variables, but always follow the standards, the naming convention. So always it should start with the small letters. Okay, so now I have in MOR1, I have div and sub, and MOR2, I have add and mul. Okay, I remove this one also. Yes, this is very important topic. Do concentrate. Don't fly away from the class. In MOR1, I have div and sub. And MOR2 class, I have add and mul. When I come to run, okay, and there is no relationship between the parent and child. You see, this is a separate class. This is a separate class. Everyone understood? So here, just a simple classes I have been created. Now, what I wanted to do, even for you, probably you will be going for some other city. So you basically belong to some place in Chennai, and you wanted to go for some Hyderabad. Now you went to Hyderabad, you want some accommodation. So you called your friend come and you pick you up, and you can go back and you can stay there. So he provided you the accommodation, right? Similar way, can I get the memory from other class for creating for other class? Now, for example, this is you, and you're trying to take the accommodation from your friend, which is MOR2. Can I do this?
Yes, sir.
Is it happening? What it was trying to say?
Change type.
Change the object to the MRO2. Okay. See, by default, it changed the class. But now how I wanted to create the object for this one. So why I wanted to do, I'll let you know. So there would be a reason for that. So why we wanted to do. Okay, so now if I wanted to do this one, so Control Z, if I wanted to do this, normal means for one particular class, creating another class memory to create this one, is it possible? It is not possible. Now,
Not possible.
Possible, sir.
okay, tell me, so how it is possible? Now, if it was throwing me the error, right? So how I need to change this?
We can declare the object and then we can assign that to the previous object. For example, if MOR1, object MOR1 equals to this one, I mean, if we create an object with the class name MOR2, so keeping the 11th line same like that, in the next line, we can do like MOR1 object sorry. I know the concept, I'm unable to explain it. So we can create another object and then assign that object to the object MOR1.
Okay, let me try to make it some more simplification. Extends one. Okay, now let's see this one. Hey, something change happened. What is that? So
It's accepting
previously,
now. Accepting
if
now.
you
Explain
see,
now. So can I explain now?
go ahead.
Yeah, for example, if we have MOR1, object name is C1 equals to new MOR1. Then we can create another object like MOR1 C2. Then we can declare that, and then C2 will be assigned to C1.
Okay, you can put it into much more better way. Okay, try it out.
I know
I'll-
it, but I'm unable to explain it.
No,
so
it's okay. It's okay because the concept itself. See, I know that many of the people will not understand this here because if you don't know how to access a variables and static variables and non-static variables from one class to another class, you completely forgot about this concept. I know that this will not be understood.
Yeah.
But however, so I'll just go ahead. I don't want to stop over here. So I just wanted to bring it up here, one particular pointer. Now, what exactly happened? I'll give step-by-step explanation so that you will understand. This is what where the object will be created. Okay, I only give the answer because if you don't
Heap
tell this,
memory.
I'll get
Heap
stuck.
memory.
In the heap memory, all the objects will be created. Why we create the object? Okay, I only answer this. We create the object to access the non-static variables. Now, I wanted to create an object. Now, for an example, I do have MOR1 and MOR2. There are two classes. Now, when I wanted to create or allocate the memory, I should have some relation. For an example, many people are coming to Hyderabad. Will you give accommodation for everyone?
No.
If you know your friend, then you'll give the accommodation. But whoever comes to Hyderabad, will you give accommodation for all the people?
No.
This is like that. The first thing happened when I didn't given the relationship between this extending keyword. If I have not given over here, so that is the reason. First, I removed this, and then I shown. Now, what it happened? Boss, who are you? How I need to give? Why I need to give it the accommodation for you? I don't have any relation with you. Now, what I did? So I given you the relation. Then I know you very well. So you are my classmate. You are my friend. And so that's the reason I just wanted to give you an information. So now, when as soon as I given here, now here in the runner file, it didn't, it was accepted. How come this was happened? How this particular child class giving the memory to the parent class? This is parent class, right? MOR1 is
Parent class.
parent class. MOR2 is
Child.
Child.
why it is child class?
X child class extends the parent class.
If the extended parent class, that's the reason it is a child class. So the child class extend means giving the now. Okay, what is this particular thing? MOR2 here. What is it?
Constructor.
This is a constructor. Now, what it was trying to do? It is giving the memory for the parent class. See now, parent class can access the child, the parent class methods, right? By creating why I should give the child class memory. I can access only, I can get the parent class constructor itself, right? So I can do this. I can do this, right? Why I should take the help of child class? I can do it with my own. You can do it. But there are certain scenarios. I'll let you know in the future. Complete Selenium will depend upon this statement. So now the new is a keyword and this is the child class constructor. Always remember that this is child class constructor and then this is a parent class, right? Now there is no, till now this particular line is not confused. Now let's see how this will be happening. Now for MOR, it required 16 bytes of space. MOR2, it have its own methods and the variables, which is taking 8 bytes. Now, as this is extending the parent class, this 8 bytes plus 16 bytes is required for this constructor. If I'm creating an object for M2, 8 bytes with the own, 16 bytes of its parent, which it comes to 24 bytes which required. So now when I created the object for this one, what is the capacity? If I'm calling this particular MOR2, what is the constructor space it will ask for to create an object in the heap memory?
24.
24 bytes.
24 by
Because I told you, right? My father have 5 acres and I have 10 acres. Overall, how many acres I have?
15.
15.
10 acres.
If my father says that how much he have?
5.
5.
5 acres only. So now this is 15 acres. The same way, whenever I created the object for, so now I extend it here so that it is 24 bytes. If I don't extend it, what is the size of this particular MOR2?
8 bytes.
60. 8 bytes.
8 bytes.
Bytes. If I extend it means the 16 is inherited to me, 16 plus 8, it was coming to 24 bytes.
24.
Now, whenever I call this particular constructor, what is the size of this constructor or capacity of this constructor? MOR2 constructor, whenever I call this one, what is the
24
size of this one?
16.
24
24
bytes.
bytes.
After
Because now it's extended, right?
extended.
Oh, yeah.
It is extended. See, always you remember that now whenever I extend it, it is 24 bytes. If it is not extended,
8
then
bytes.
8 bytes. Very simple. We got the simple thing. Now, means whenever I created for MOR1, how much size it will take in the heap memory?
16.
15 bytes.
16 bytes. Now, who is allocating the memory for this particular class?
MOR2
You-
constructor.
MOR2
MOR2
constructor is
constructor
allocating
allocating
this one. Now, what is the size of this object MOR1?
16.
24.
Guys,
24.
why you
24.
guys are, see now, what is the capacity of this constructor? See,
24.
24.
if here MOR2 capacity is 24, now what is the size of MOR2 here?
24.
24 only, right? So now, if I guys go on mute. So now here I have 24 bytes. So when I created an object for MOR1, even though if I'm creating for this one, if I'm calling that MOR1 constructor, at that point of time, my object size is 16 bytes. But as I'm calling MOR2, then this object size is
24
24 bytes.
bytes.
Because the child class memory, you're allocating to the parent class memory. So this concept is called as upcasting. How come it would be overriding? Overriding we have been already discussed, right?
Yes.
So this is called upcasting. Somewhere else we have been seeing this casting. Where?
Typecasting.
Typecasting.
Casting.
Typecasting is related to
Data
your
types.
data types.
Types.
Converting one data type to another data type.
The data type.
Yes.
So typecasting is means data type conversion. But this is upcasting and downcasting is related to your object. Upcasting is nothing but upcasting. Going for up means
Higher
it's
the
here,
memory.
you're going with what you're trying to do is from the child class memory, you're giving to the parent class memory. This is a higher to the lower. So now you're going, you are being upcasted, means you are up and you're giving the help for the others who are in the low. There is concept of downcasting. I'll not tell about downcasting. I know that you will definitely destroy today if I said that. Upcasting is nothing but allocating the child class memory to the parent class memory or parent class object is called upcasting. See now, this is a child class memory. This is a child class constructor. Allocating the memory to the parent class object. This is parent class object. Then it would be called as upcasting. Got it? What do you mean? This is one of the most important interview question. What do you mean by upcasting? So now we understood from the memory management. Now, if I'm accessing this particular object, what are the methods I can access now? With this one, what all methods I can access? Will I access all child class methods plus parent class methods? Or will I access only the parent class methods? Or will I access only the child class methods?
All, sir.
What are there in the parent class method? Let's see. This is parent class, right? Div and sub.
Division,
These are the two.
sub.
Now, when I created the object for this, now what all the methods I can access? Div and sub. Only these two methods. You can see it right here. If you're confused, you can see the class names here. I'm seeing only sub and div. Means it can access only
MOR1 first parent class.
Only parent class.
only parent
Method.
class methods it can be accessed. So this I can access only this, or I can access only sub. But now when from the child class, from this particular object, what all methods I can access now? Can I access child
All, I
class
guess,
methods?
sir.
All we
all
can
methods.
access.
So you can have access
Division,
add, division,
Sub.
multiplication, sub.
And
All the methods you can access here. You might thinking that why I told this particular upcasting. If you understand the upcasting, then you can go for the interfaces. You might asking that here why I should create CBus. I know that I can have, it is very easy for me. Okay, it's very easy for me to do this. I can be calling that MRO_1. I'll do that. And my problem is solved, right? Why I should take the help of my child class? I can do this, and then I can access all my, with this object, I can access all my parent class methods. Why I should require to take the help of my child class to create a memory? So this answer, we'll get it tomorrow. Okay, so when we discuss about the interfaces, this is the most important concept which we'll be giving it. So this concept is called as dynamic polymorphism. So this is called as upcasting and dynamic polymorphism. What do you mean by dynamic polymorphism? Means at runtime, we will know that for which constructor I need to call. Now, if I call this particular constructor, to which class it will be going now? Which constructor it will be called? See, for an example now, I'll go to the MRO1 and I try to create MRO1. Now I try to create public MRO1. I am in MRO1. I am MRO1 constructor. Okay. Now if we do here, I'll go save this. Okay, so now here I'll be writing this one as the constructor. That's it, right? Now if you see here, at the runtime, you won't be knowing that which constructor is calling. According to that particular constructor, your memory would be dynamically allocated. Right? So now your memory would be dynamically allocated. So now if I'm accessing this one, it will go to this constructor and it will print it. If I'm going to call this one, this will go on print this particular constructor. Now you understood, right? We discussed the constructor overloading, why I asked you to debug. Now it is very clearly, you see it. Now, even though this is a class, parent class object, now creating the child class, see now only, I already shown you, only when there is a relation you can give the accommodation. If you don't have the relation, can you give the accommodation? No. So now with this, it should extend. Then only we can call this as a parent class and this is a child class. Now the child class, allocating the memory to the parent class, this is called as upcasting. Now upcasting is also known as, okay, for upcasting there is another concept is also called as dynamic polymorphism. Dynamic polymorphism means on the fly, this is called runtime polymorphism. Dynamic polymorphism or runtime polymorphism, both are same. So now, what do you mean by dynamic polymorphism is, at a runtime, the constructor will allocate the memory and it will let you know which particular class it need to execute it. So now, at this particular time, now what it will try to do is, if I start to do the debugging, if you see this, it come to this particular method now. Okay. So now it came. I just wanted to go inside that method. You see, it went to MOR2 and it started to execute this particular constructor. It executed this constructor and it went. Now, if you see here, what had happened, if you see, there is some small logic that happened here. What is that logic?
Constructor.
I actually, if you're speaking here, I'm not calling this particular constructor, the MOR1 constructor, but why that particular constructor has been executed. It is very simple. Now, when we have this particular constructor, as this is extending the MOR class, the constructor of this one MOR class executed, right? First extended class constructor would be executed, then it was coming to this particular constructor. Because always the constructors will call first. So that's a default constructor we have. So now it executed that particular constructor and then it started to come and print this particular constructor. You see, that is the reason it printed the constructor 1 and constructor 2. If you see in the runner file, I didn't add this at all. If you see here, I commented wantedly. Even though I'm calling the MOR2 constructor, it is trying to call the parent constructor and then the child constructor. Because this particular child class extended the parent class. Now, when I started to extend this one, by default, it will call that. So now for this one, I no need to do this one also. Even if I directly calling this particular object. So now even if I executed this statement, now you see this. I'm just calling this MRO2. Okay. So MRO2, I was trying to execute a method. For example, I wanted to execute this div method. Okay. Now what I'm trying to do, terminate it. So here what I need to do, I'm trying to execute this method, right? Now, if I debug this particular program, you see it? Okay. Now, when I started to debug this program, F5, you see it? It went to the parent class constructor. It executed the parent class because always the constructors would be called by default. The initialization would be happen because you see that I'm calling the child class, but parent class initialization also it's done because it is extended, right? Now I told you, right, that 8 bytes plus 16 bytes equal to 24 bytes. This is the concept which it came. Means for this particular, see now MRO2 can give what? MRO2, this particular constructor will give that particular class space, but still I need to have my parent class space also, right? That 8 byte, 16 byte concept. I was just trying to explain you that. So now 16 bytes from my parent class should be allocated and 8 bytes from my child class should be allocated. Then this particular object will have 24 bytes, right? So that is how this particular constructor will call that particular memory initializations and this particular initializations both allocated for this one. So when I call this particular object, both the constructors will be executed, means both the memory should be executed. So this is the concept of this. And when we have this one, so directly it will go for the child class memory, allocates that one, but even to that, for example, if I create it for this, but what is the difference for this and this? Now you see here, you wanted to see the differences between these two, right? Now let me execute this particular statement first. Now you can see that only one class constructor would be executed, right? The constructor would be executed and it would be printing to me. See, I am MRO1 constructor. Now, when I executed this particular statement, now I'm creating for the same class with this particular child class memory, right? Now, you see it? This will execute me this particular constructor and this particular constructor value also. So that is the difference between this one and this one. So now for this, if I created this one, this will have 24 bytes, which I talked about the memory, because it will have the parent class constructor and the child class constructor memory also. But here, When I executed for this one, I'll be having only 16 bytes of space. And because the 8 bytes are given for this, I'm giving a random example. Okay, the sizes will be different, but for your explanation, I was taking the 16, 8, 24. It is not exactly 16, 24. There might be much or less. But for your explanation, I was saying that for MRO2, if it is having 8 bytes, and for
8
MRO1,
bytes.
if it is
16.
16 bytes. Now, when I created for this one, it adds up that and it will go for 24. And if it is not, then it will add up for 16. Okay. So here today we have been discussed about a quick recap the things. What we have been discussed is we have been discussed about method overriding concept. So method overriding concepts is very, very important. We have been discussed creating the parent class. If it is a relationship only, then the overriding will happen. If there is no relationship, there is no overriding. Now parent-child relationship should be there. Now after this one, so now then we have been discussed about inheritance with the polymorphism. Means see now I have all my methods, add methods, and how I have been accessed in the runner class from the child class and parent class into the runner class. We have been discussed. Then we have been discussed about the upcasting, and we have been discussed about the memory management system. This session you need to go back and once again you need to listen it. This recording is very, very important. You go back, listen it, and try to implement this one. You will stuck at a lot of pointers. You will have a lot of questions. Go back, try, implement it, and then come back and ask the questions tomorrow. And tomorrow's session is very, very important, which is interfaces. What is interface? Why should we require interfaces? Why I should have to use it? So these are all concepts. Now, whatever the things we have discussed today, now this allocating the child class to the parent class memory, which is called upcasting. Why we have done this upcasting? If I did the upcasting, what methods I'll be accessing it? So those are all informations and things we'll be discussing tomorrow. So tomorrow's class is very important. If you feel that not interested, don't attend one. But it is very, very important. If you don't understand tomorrow's class, you will never understand Selenium and all, for sure. Get ready. And for understanding tomorrow, whatever we have discussed today, that is very important. Go back, read, implement, and come back for tomorrow's session. That's it for the day. Thank you.
So
Yes.